Hello, Thaddeus here for XJW Bible Bites. This video is going to be an impromptu video without too much preparation put into it. It's going to be some channel updates and then a testimony about something that finally happened to me that I got to experience as an ex-witness that other people have talked about, having gone through it one way or another. So as ex-witnesses, or as PMOs, or witnesses, or anyone that may be watching who's interested in witnesses, we are of course aware of their shunning policy and how dishonest witness, I don't want to say authorities, defenders, lawyers, whatever, their various legal corporations, how dishonest they are with how that policy is applied, even to people who've peacefully left and are not in what they would call gross sin or major sin in their organization or even in Christianity in general. We all know that normal family and friend relationships do not continue. We know that if you have contracts, work contracts, or are an employee of witnesses, that is very unlikely to continue, even if you are an important piece in the machinery of that business or service or whatever it happens to be. That was my personal experience, and I expected it. And even being expected for the inhuman coldness of the shunning policy that they've been programmed to participate in, it still hurt, especially from the handful of people in the organization that I was close to that either didn't leave with me or are not PMOs. Of which, of course, I'm still in contact with. Now, what is this circumstance? You might say, I've heard many testimonies of people who were not notified that people they knew, friends or family, which is the bigger one, were sick or had died. They had to find out via worldly people or third hand or years later. This policy is just awful. It's so disgusting. And it needs to be, more publicity needs to be done with this, which is something I'm going to be talking about a little bit in this video. But what is my circumstance? What am I talking about? That I'm still processing it. Like I just found out late last night, completely by accident. One of my dearest friends and one of their younger relatives was run over. They were pedestrians, run over by a drunk driver. So the younger relative of someone who was a very dear friend suffered a facial fracture and probably other minor injuries. I don't want to say former, they definitely consider me former, but I'm just going to say friend, who's still a witness, was run over by the automobile directly and dragged, and the vehicle kept right on going. That person is in custody. Phone alarm. So that driver of a motor vehicle is in custody in the local county jail. So we'll see how that turns out. But my friend was sent to the ICU in critical condition. And no one thought to inform me or the people who left with me, who were very close with them. Not a peep. Not a text, not an email, not a letter, although assuming that we haven't moved. And so I suppose text, email, something, an attempt to reach out. Not a peep. And there was a GoFundMe, and I chose to donate, and I did not hide my name. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Why? This is standard witness operating procedure, where they have desensitized and indoctrinated people to the point where they can consider this a good thing to do. It's a normal thing to do. To completely cut off family members or friends whose only sin may be they don't want to be part of the religion anymore. And I say sin sarcastically. So when you see a witness lawyer go before a judge or magistrate and say such things as normal familial relationships are allowed to continue, especially in the household with legal term minor children, um, that is a absolute lie. From my own experience and from testimonies, at best, it'll be a very uncomfortable, awkward situation. At worst, it'll be a living hell that has driven many people to suicide or into drug abuse. But witnesses are told that this is a loving arrangement, and it is absolutely not. It's a self destructive one, but I had to find out accidentally and then glean information from local news reports about what was happening and find the FundMe to, I don't know precisely what it's for, but perhaps something that's not covered by the insurance. And they've almost met their goal. And I'm happy, and I'm sure many of those donations are from witnesses, and then many more are probably from clients or classmates related to the injured friend's business. And it just got me thinking, the witness mentality is to such a point where, let's say I had been walking on the side of the road and I was hit by a 4,000-pound metal projectile traveling at, 30 miles an hour or so, or there were enough people to overwhelm me to beat and rob me, and I was left on the side of the road, presumed dead, bleeding and injured. I would like to say that my former witness associates, wanting to believe the best in people, would lift a finger to assist me if they knew it was me. But I can't say that. I cannot say that with any kind of certainty. Where because you're presumed spiritually dead, well, what does your body matter at that point, really, to a witness? But it just got me thinking about the Good Samaritan, the story or parable of the Good Samaritan, and how powerful that is, and how much it undermines witness procedures when it comes to how they treat what they call worldly people, people who never were witnesses, never have been witnesses, have no association with witnesses, and no interest in witnesses, and how they treat former members, whether they were disfellowshipped for breaking rules or they wanted to leave peacefully and left the door open for rank and file. I made it very clear I was not interested in any judicial meetings or meeting with any of the elders. More so because I knew it wouldn't go anywhere, and because I knew I probably, at that point in my life, maybe now, I don't know, I wouldn't be able to resist ripping them a new one with their policies and tearing apart their so-called doctrines and scriptural interpretations. And it wouldn't go anywhere, and it just wouldn't be a good situation. So I had no interest in judicial meetings. But I made it perfectly clear, in person in some cases, and then in the letter that I said, I don't remember exactly what I said off the top of my head, that I was still open to being contacted, that I was still there. If anyone needed anything, they can count on me. So I was thinking about the Good Samaritan illustration. Who are the Samaritans? Well, first off, the Samaritans are what the Jews would consider mongrels. They were part of Jewish remnants that had been left behind before the Babylonian exile that had mixed with other um, tribal groups, nation groups. I don't believe in races. I call it, honestly, more accurately, it would be breeds. Like, are there different races of dog or cat? No, they're called breeds. There's one race, it is the race of mankind. But these Jews had formed, I don't even like the term hybrid. They just married who they want to marry. So the Jews considered them mongrels and inferior. In addition to that, the Samaritans, and we can wonder why, didn't feel the need to travel and worship at Jerusalem, probably didn't want to deal with that and everything. So they had their own ways of doing things. That doesn't mean it was right, and I'm not saying it was or incorrect, but they had their own culture, they had their own beliefs and religions of how they did things. So this Samaritan was traveling down the road. He happened to be coming from Jerusalem in the story. And he came upon a Jewish man who had been robbed and beaten and left to die on the side of the road. A what was it, a Pharisee or Sadducee and a Levite priest had gone by, so Jews, practicing Jews. And for whatever reason, whatever excuse, whether they wanted to say they didn't want to risk becoming unclean by touching a dead body, um, assuming he was dead, they had left him. But the Samaritan, who in his mind knew that the Jew probably viewed him as an enemy, as dirt, as an inferior being, went out of his way to bind up his wounds, take care of him, paid for his care at an inn nearby. And the story is powerful of who really is your neighbor. It's a powerful classic, whether you're a believer or not. The meaning behind it is just so good. And I cannot say that any of these witnesses, even ones that I was quote unquote close to, would be that Samaritan for me. Because witness doctrine, even though people who are not their enemies, they make them their enemies in their doctrine, they declare them to be, even if those people don't feel the same way. They hate their enemies because they are told they are God's enemies and believe it just because they say it's so. The Jews and the Samaritans could have been considered ethno-religious enemies or opponents. But this story, it was undebatable, and the crowd there was amazed, and the man who asked the question got the point, probably didn't like it, of who really was his neighbor. The person who acts in a godly way or follows the way of Jesus, the way of mercy. So why I chose personally to donate to the GoFundMe, and I don't usually talk about stuff like this, was because I decided that I wanted to follow the example of my Lord, whether or not they would do the same. So speaking to ex-witnesses who might be feeling that hatred and that bitterness towards the evil behavior of witnesses, not saying evil people, I'm saying evil behavior. The only power you have is choosing what you will do with the situation, and that can give a witness to witnesses. So if I don't know exactly how it works, my name shows up on the donor roll, what I hope that will be is a witness of, you've treated me like trash. I'm still here for you. I am the best version of myself I've ever been, but I'm still me. And I hope it can help add to the cognitive dissonance of they know better. They know better than to do some of these things in their hearts, if not in their heads. And I don't know what kind of condition they are in. I can't say that it's not that I wouldn't want to, but I can't say that I would travel to the medical facility where they are. I don't even know how they're doing because there's no clear information I've been able to find available. Whether or not they're going to have to go through physical therapy, if they're disabled, exactly how severe the injuries were, major breaks, anything like that. I just know critical condition. And so was the Jewish man that the Samaritan helped. So part of how we can help undermine Watchtower is by not responding with hate for hate, and by our actions helping to put them to shame, just like Jesus put the people around him to shame with his illustration of the Good Samaritan, which is a classic. So that's what I had to say about that. The next thing I just wanted to spend a few minutes discussing was we need to start taking more action to expose the Watchtower for what it is. And one method I was thinking about today was how I've already taken out some legal notices in local papers and things. And I was thinking, why not reach out to some of the local papers about this story? Because it was already picked up in the media. Because stuff like this, it doesn't happen too often. More now, but it really doesn't happen too often. And just reaching out of saying, this is who I am. I know these people. Here's my story. Would you be interested in, going over who witnesses are, why I left, how I had to find out about my friend, and everything. Just, I don't know if they'd be interested in picking it up, doing a paragraph, whatever. But just taking the opportunity to, I mean, what they can say no. I don't care. Well, I do care, but I don't care about the no. But taking the opportunity to get the message out is why not take it upon yourself to reach out to local media stations. A lot of places still have free papers that are, nothing is free. Publicly funded papers, there's some paid papers, just reaching out. If you hear about stuff like this, you hear about a witness arrested in a violent incident, you hear about a CSA case involving witnesses that you happen to have knowledge of, you hear about an accident or one dies because they refused certain medical procedures. Why not reach out to your local paper? We need to start raising more awareness of what this religion does, especially since, like in my case, I can pretty much guarantee that if the hospital liaison committee is involved, local elders, interviews with family, so that they're going to be praising themselves for all the the donations and the love bombing and the care of the community, because witnesses do, if you're one of the chosen, witnesses do take care of their own. Everything, they have extremely tight-knit communities. We need to show what happens when you decide that you don't want to be part of the religious aspect of that community. And we need to start undermining their public image more. And each and every one of us has the opportunity to do that. So all it takes is some emails, some phone calls, and stuff. So that's what I'm going to be looking into. So wrapping up this video for today, I do want to say the poll is now closed. So we had 4 options. We had Leviathan, Giants, Gospel of Thomas, or other. I was surprised actually by this. Leviathan only got 7% of the votes. Where did the Giants come from after the deluge? Got 60%. Gospel of Thomas got 13%, and other got 20%. But I don't see any comments on the poll, and there's nothing hidden. So I don't know. If you commented on the poll asking for something else, I mean, it didn't get enough votes to pass, but if you did, I didn't ignore it. It's just I don't see anything here, but I'm going to always leave that as an option on future polls. But the clear winner is, where did the giants come from after the deluge? So the 60%. So that will be the subject of the 4 August consideration. Um, Something else I just wanted to mention, I never claimed to be an accredited biblical scholar, and I welcome any criticisms or counterpoints or inclusions of things I may have missed on any of my videos. Um, that doesn't mean that I have to agree with someone's religious point of view, but it also doesn't mean that I discredit it or disrespect it, um, or would say that you don't have a right to express it. And I do want to address one commenter. I don't even know if they're going to keep watching, but essentially they just seem to take it upon themselves to say that the XJW community doesn't need people who pretend to be Bible scholars like Mileti Vivillon, Berean Pickett's, he by name, this was him, he brought him up, and myself is like, oh, you left a cult, blah blah blah, I shouldn't be in this stuff. And okay, you have a right to your opinion, but if you're going to raise some kind of criticism that you expect me to either take seriously or really be interested in giving a reply to, do it with the substance of the information that I did, which is fine, and I welcome it. Because if I'm wrong, then prove me wrong with substance and reasoning and evidence. And if I'm not, I reserve the right not to go and switch to your point of view, because I am not someone that is tossed about in the waves, and I don't disrespect people or denigrate them and their beliefs, but I'm not going to just believe what you believe because it's what you were taught by your pastor or your parents. I left a situation like that. So part of me was proving or disproving things to myself, and that is my goal. I am not starting another religion. I'm not religious. I don't believe in religion. I'm not looking to accumulate disciples or followers. I am presenting information. And I never claim that everything I say would be absolutely correct in all aspects, include all these things. But I'm also not afraid of controversy. Um, Neither should you. And you shouldn't get upset or angry about something that I post, because then you're letting what I said have power over you. And I never asked or requested, nor do I have any desire for that power. But if you are going to bring up criticisms, go ahead, but have it with the information, not with the person, because I don't care. I'm East Coast. Um, yeah. Other than that, I just on a happier announcement, I just want to say the people that have set up algorithms to put post to adult content and stuff, you know your comments don't show up, right? You know, there's an automatic filter algorithm that puts them in a catch bin, and even if anything goes through, it's going to get removed. I have no interest in the internet prawns, and the internet has been around for 20 years. Of who are you expecting to actually interact and or click on these things? It's sad. Um, and very amusing with these things. Yeah. So anything that has swears or certain keywords in it is caught by the filter and just goes into a bin. On another note, I don't remove people's comments unless I know that it is spam or directly violates rules, or I tell you that I'm going to if. So there were some Bible bullies that tried to come through, and I either it's an AI or part of the time they were drunk. But I would tell them, I'm going to bring up ABC. This is my channel, this is my space. ABC. If you do not answer these, if you try to swerve around, anything like that, it is getting removed. They swerved around, they refused, and they just threw out more rhetoric. Removed. I reserve that right. It's my space. But if you make a comment and it doesn't show up, I don't arbitrarily remove stuff, even stuff that I disagree with. I do respect people's rights to comment. Sometimes, if it's too long, or you try to make another comment on a comment without there a reply to it, or you comment too soon, or sometimes key phrases, it'll get removed. And sometimes there's nothing in my bin. So I don't know if it just gets completely deleted automatically. But if your comment doesn't show up, it doesn't mean I had anything to do with it. But yeah, so just as a reiteration, we can take it upon ourselves to figure out how to get more people to understand how dangerous this cult is. That's what I had to say today, and I hope you all have a good night.